Stormwater management has become an important part of urban watershed management. Urbanization has cleared forests and other ecosystems to make way for massive developments and transportation corridors. This has fundamentally altered the hydrological cycle in these systems. Roofs, roads, and sidewalks are all impervious surfaces. They do not allow water to infiltrate them. Any rain that falls on these surfaces becomes runoff. Out of necessity, we have had to manage this form of water flow rarely seen in nature. As you can see in this figure, the amount of surface runoff in red increases dramatically when you convert from a forest on the far left to urban environments, such as multifamily or commercial on the right. Traditionally, stormwater management focuses on blue water. Blue water is the water that we can see at the surface and convey away from buildings to a river, lake, or the ocean. Stormwater runoff is directed from gutters and drains to underground pipes. This in turn leads to a body of water. Let's see how this affects the stream flow of receiving waters. This is a typical hydrograph for a stream in a forested watershed. There are three main ways urbanization affects stream flow. 1. It shortens the time to peak flow. Water is rapidly conveyed to the stream after a rain event. 2. It heightens peak flow. Less water infiltrates and is stored in the soil, causing more runoff from the surface. This high energy flow can erode and damage stream banks. 3. It lowers base flow. Impervious surfaces prevent subsurface and groundwater stores from being recharged by rainfall. Groundwater provides a continuous base flow to streams and is an important source of flow in the dry season. Stormwater runoff also picks up contaminants, such as oil and grease, from roads and parking lots. These untreated contaminants end up in water bodies. This can have an adverse effect on fish and other organisms. Impervious surfaces are a good indicator of stream health, where an area beyond 15% imperviousness results in a reduction in aquatic health and biodiversity. Stormwater management designs remained unchanged for most of the 20th century. Conveying stormwater alone has been proven ineffective in terms of water quality. Increasing climatic variability has led to stronger storm events. This has caused flooding from high-energy runoff to be conveyed through inadequate stormwater systems. This, coupled with high density in urban areas, has intensified erosion and poor water quality. The philosophy of stormwater management has shifted its focus to green water, or the water that is taken up and moved through soil and plants. Innovative stormwater designs mimic Mother Nature, promoting retention, infiltration, and slow release of water. This reduces the energy of water, as well as urban non-point sources of contamination, by absorption, precipitation, and plant uptake. Watershed processes differ from the headwaters to the mouth of a catchment, and from activities at the property, neighborhood, and watershed scales. This video series showcases innovative designs in urban stormwater management on 3 scales. 1. The property scale. This video shows innovative approaches that individual home and business owners can take to reduce the risk of flooding and water contamination. 2. The neighborhood scale. This video shows designs that municipal jurisdictions can apply to reduce the impact of roads, parking lots, and commercial infrastructure. 3. The watershed scale. This video shows innovations that can protect rivers and other water bodies. It will also look at broader land use planning. There are many designs to better manage stormwater on a property scale. This can be done both in new construction and in retrofits. Rainwater becomes runoff as soon as it hits an impervious surface, such as a roof or a driveway. By retaining, reusing, and infiltrating rainwater on their property, homeowners can reduce the amount of water that makes it to storm sewers. This mimics Mother Nature, where soil and vegetation slows the movement of water. It also allows it to infiltrate into the subsurface. Reducing the amount of roof runoff that enters storm drains means putting less strain on aquatic ecosystems, which bear the brunt of urban stormwater. This video will show you some examples of innovative stormwater management designs in residential, commercial, and industrial properties. We take you first to beautiful Bowen Island, just off the coast of Vancouver, BC. Bowen Island restricts water use during the dry summer months.
The properties that are being developed in this area have a restrictive covenant, which requires everyone to have a rainwater harvesting system. And so that means that all outdoor water use must come from your storage tanks. But in our case, the tanks are both providing outdoor water use and our toilet water.
Kim Stevens is a resident of Bowen Island. Stevens harvests his roof water into 2 large tanks, each with a volume of 2,000 gallons, or over 8,000 liters. These tanks collect rainwater from a 2,400 square foot roof.
A millimeter of rain falling onto the roof catchment area translates into about 1 inch of water level in the 2 tanks.
Gutter guards and downspout filters prevent leaves and other debris from entering the system. Water then flows through a pipe into the tanks. Stevens' tanks are connected to the indoor plumbing for the toilet water supply.
This is the pump that sucks the water out of the tanks outside and then feeds it into the system to supply water to the toilets. And there goes the pump.
Older toilets use 21 liters per flush. Stevens has installed low-flow toilets where just 3 to 6 liters of water are used per flush. Stevens keeps track of the household water use by checking the level in the tanks.
This tank is 92 inches in height, so all I do now is do a simple measurement from the underside of the lid, and I'll just see how much it's gone down. So we're at about 44 inches, so it's about halfway. After whatever it is, 6 weeks of rain-free weather, this tank is now down about half capacity, and that includes our outdoor water use as well as all of our toilet use.
The water collected in the tanks is clear and ready to use right away.
One person in a year uses 1 tank of water. So it puts it all in context in terms of how we size systems and what we actually use. Those 2 tanks are more than sufficient to get us through a 4 to 6 month period, both indoor use and our limited outdoor use, without having to switch over to the treated water supply.
The house contains other stormwater features. Gutter chains direct some of the roof water into the garden.
If you look at the driveway, you'll see that it's granular, because that's another part of the restrictive covenant, is no paved driveways, so that whatever falls on it percolates down. And in terms of the garden itself, it's a very limited garden area, but we either just use the combination of the soaker hose and hand watering.
As we saw on Bowen Island, driveways are a great opportunity for homeowners to reduce impervious surfaces on their property. Conventionally, driveways are paved using concrete or asphalt. All rainfall that lands on them becomes runoff. Using an alternative driveway design can allow water and contaminants to infiltrate into the soil. This can be done using pavers and grass, a ribbon driveway, or pervious pavement that directly absorbs water. These options are effective ways to reduce the stormwater runoff generated. These designs are not only found on houses. Even your local community center can incorporate stormwater management into its landscaping. The South Surrey Community Centre has a specially designed roof that directs roof water down a spout into a rain garden. Rain gardens create seepage areas where water can infiltrate into a grouping of plants called an artificial bioswale. Concrete pavers on the parking lot allow some water to infiltrate into the soil below. The soil then treats the oil and grease left behind from cars. The parking lot is also graded to coax water to flow into the rain garden. North Vancouver receives over 2 meters of rain and snow every year. Managing and reducing runoff is a big challenge. Leading the way is the Mountain Equipment Co-op retail store. This building represents a combination of structures and designs that collects water from the roof, parking lot, and adjacent road. It also detains and filters the contaminated runoff for indoor use. Downspouts from the roof direct rainwater into a rain garden. This is functional and aesthetically pleasing. Crystal Campbell is one of the stormwater consultants who helped design these features.
The stormwater management on this site is innovative and unique. Here behind me is a stormwater rain garden. So it collects water from the roof and from part of the parking area, and it treats it by moving the water through the swale, through the vegetation and the soil layer. It gets filtration, and then it is infiltrated into the ground. We have a groundwater well that takes water from the ground and reuses it in the toilets.
Signs in the store's bathrooms inform the public about the source of the toilet water and warn that it's not safe to drink.
Most of the contaminants are coming from the parking lot area, and so that can have general stormwater contaminants such as sediment, total suspended solids. It can have oils and grease from vehicle droppings, and it can also have metals. So as they're drained to the rain gardens, they get stormwater treatment through the vegetation and soil layer.
Just down the street, Richard Bowes has taken a proactive and hands-on approach to retrofitting his family home.
What we're going to look at here is some of the things that I managed to do to our home here on what we call a retrofit basis on a single family property. One of the things we're doing now, green infrastructure, cascading systems, just like what Mother Nature does, starting with the trees, the tree canopy, the branches, the bark, the soil under the soil, and then ground. So I've kind of tried to mimic the same thing here. All the water that lands on the parking lot is collected into the sump there, and then there's a pipe that's collected from the sump that runs down in behind the base of this wall. So I'm infiltrating all of the water from the parking lot out into the soil behind the wall. The system then comes down the side, down here, to my first collection sump. All the water from the roof of my garage, the water that doesn't infiltrate in behind the wall, comes into this sump where you can see the gravel bottom. So there's a lot of infiltration that's going on just on the water that hits this sump here. So during heavy rains, if this sump fills up and the ground and the water is saturated, the water comes out from a pipe that flows down here and flows into my main backyard infiltration system. So this system here has allowed me to build the garage and all the parking lot with no connection out to the storm sewer system. So after working with the city, I got all of the approvals that I needed to put that alternative system in place.
Bowes also has a rain barrel connected to his house.
The important thing here is we've had some rain, so I've got a little pipe here, and not quite full, but one of the things too, it's important that when your rain barrel fills up, you need to empty it to use the water, right? Because you don't want, once your rain barrel is full, it doesn't do anything for you. So I've got the kids all programmed to check the rain barrel, come, put the hose out on the grass, and just empty the rain barrel out on the grass. The water guns are out on the yard, so it's been hot lately, so they'll use the rain barrel to fill up the water guns and things like that.
Bose has detached the downspout from his stormwater connection to allow roof water to drain onto the grass. It may seem that a grass lawn is a good option to allow infiltration on a property, but that's not true when turf is rolled over compacted soil. This is common when construction uses heavy machinery. The soil is so hard, it is as though grass has been laid over concrete. Unsurprisingly, this leads to drainage problems, pooling, and runoff during heavy rains. Adding a layer of topsoil can alleviate this problem.
One of the new standards we're working on is when they do landscaping here, we're really trying to encourage developers to use at least 300 millimeters of organic topsoil, because that's been found to be the most effective depth for soil to manage rainwater. So I've just dug a bit of a hole here, and they're using well above the 300 millimeter standard of topsoil in here, so that's great.
In addition to thick topsoil, you can plant trees. Urban trees are very important for stormwater management. Rain is intercepted by the leaves in the tree's canopy. This reduces and slows rainfall that would otherwise become runoff. Water also evaporates from the canopy back to the atmosphere. Research has shown that western red cedar trees intercept and evapotranspire up to 55% of rainfall. Even without other stormwater designs, a large tree can slash your effective impervious area. Urban trees also provide shade, temperature regulation, windbreak, erosion control, wildlife habitat, and they act as a carbon sink. Finally, one of the most visible and beautiful designs for urban stormwater management can be found in the heart of downtown Vancouver, the new Convention Centre green roof. Green roofs consist of a synthetic growing medium where vegetation is planted. Depending on the local climate, some green roofs are irrigated, but typically they don't need to be watered. The vegetation takes up much of the rainwater that falls on the roof, keeping it from flowing down into the stormwater system. The vegetation will filter any water that does seep out, so runoff will be of better quality, containing fewer sediments and associated metals. Green roofs are engineered to have many additional benefits in green building design, such as temperature regulation in the summer and winter. They also provide green space in dense urban areas. Innovative stormwater management designs come in all shapes and sizes. It can be as simple as planting a tree, or as complex as an engineered rain garden or green roof. Using just one of these options on a property can have a significant reduction in stormwater runoff. All designs need to be properly maintained, and further research needs to be conducted on the longevity of these designs and their effectiveness at improving quality of runoff. In our next video, we are moving on up. See how stormwater is managed at the neighborhood scale when we have roads and traffic to contend with. When we zoom out from the property scale to the neighborhood scale, impervious surface area becomes much greater. Dense road networks, parking lots, and commercial and residential subdivisions present different stormwater management issues. These impervious features generate large amounts of runoff and high levels of pollution from vehicles, including hydrocarbons and metals. Runoff also contains sediments from construction sites and other activities. The increased runoff and contaminants pose challenges for stormwater management at the neighborhood scale. There are several innovative designs that can be applied at this scale in order to reduce the amount of water, delay the timing of runoff, and improve the quality of runoff. This video will cover 3 areas: parking lot designs, road designs, and detention ponds and wetlands. Parking lot designs. Most developers are required by municipalities to provide parking for customers and employees on site. However, pollution that is generated from vehicles in parking lots runs off into streams and can have a negative impact on aquatic ecosystems. In areas with heavy rain, such as North Vancouver, municipalities are looking for diverse ways to infiltrate rain into the ground so it doesn't have to be managed by storm drains and pipe systems. Richard Bose shows us a few examples in the district of North Vancouver.
So what we're looking at is a method that we can use to create more or less a porous kind of parking lot surface. The blocks here fit together, but they leave probably about a ½ an inch gap between the blocks that allows rainwater to land on this surface and then soak into the ground underneath the surface. We get some benefit in terms of, you can see the little bits of pollution and oil that fall off the cars. That material, when it rains, gets carried in between the cracks, moves into the soil where there's some natural aerobic decomposition that takes place, and we actually help reduce some of that pollution. So we're here now at Harborview Park in North Vancouver, again at the mouth of Lynn Creek, and we're looking at another parking lot. This one is only a couple years old, and it's using a very different approach in terms of managing the rain. The parking lot that you can see behind me uses traditional asphalt, and the parking lot is sloped so that all the runoff runs into this, what's called a bioswale, in behind me. This parking lot has the benefit of biological controls in the vegetation in the swale, no infrastructure or pipes needed underneath this parking lot to worry about replacing. So this is one of the newer, more modern approaches in which we're learning to manage parking lots.
Here we can see a bioswale being built next to the parking lot of a new business complex in North Vancouver. It was designed to mimic a North Shore stream. The round river rock in the bottom resembles the stream bed where runoff can infiltrate. The soil along the edges will be planted with native grasses and vegetation. This is an example of an unvegetated swale that collects parking lot runoff. The gaps between the curb stops allow rainwater to run off into the swale.
During really, really heavy rain, this ditch will actually fill up and allow water to pond in it to a certain degree, and then the manhole has an open grate. So we're protecting against flooding by, when the water comes up to the lip of the manhole, it'll just exit out through the storm system.
This parking lot in Crescent Beach was surfaced with pervious pavement. Pervious pavement can be engineered concrete or asphalt, where fine particles are left out to make it more porous, allowing rainwater to infiltrate right through. This eliminates the need for storm sewers. This site also includes a bioswale to receive any runoff that may occur during large rain events. Other parking lot designs incorporate vegetation right into the surface, as in these examples here. These work similarly to infiltrate and retain contaminants in the soil. Road designs. Traditional roads are often very wide. They have curbs and gutters, and they direct runoff into urban streams through a dense network of stormwater drains and pipes. These drains can clog with leaves, or even sediment traps in this case, and can lead to isolated pooling and flooding. Impervious surfaces can be reduced substantially by incorporating different road designs. When cul-de-sacs are designed into a hammerhead or T shape as opposed to a large circular system, imperviousness can be reduced by up to 75%. New roads can integrate one of two similar design philosophies. The first is to keep curbs on roadsides, but provide gaps in the curb to direct water into swales in the middle or side of the road. Another variation of this can be found in Surrey, BC. On this street, road runoff enters the storm drain, but instead of being conveyed by a pipe, water is stored and infiltrated into a gravel trench. Through subsurface flow, this runoff enters an adjacent vegetated bioswale. Only during extreme rain events does this trench fill up, and overflow can exit through this pipe into the storm sewer. The second is to design roads with no curbs or gutters, so that road runoff is directed as overland flow into bioswales on the side of the road, where it then infiltrates. Swales operate most efficiently when they comprise a system of compartments that are filled with gravel and sand. Crown Street in Vancouver is a successful example of this design. Some of the swales are grassed, while others are planted and maintained as a part of homeowners' gardens. Some sections even drain into a wetland, indicated by the tall grass and rushes, while others have a storm drain for overflow. The road is purposefully curved to reduce traffic speed in this residential area. Detention ponds and wetlands. Detention ponds can be situated throughout an urban watershed to temporarily receive and store piped stormwater runoff from adjacent neighborhoods. This storage process allows sediments and contaminants to settle to the bottom of the pond before the overflow water enters a water body. Carrie Barron takes us on a tour of a new detention facility still under construction in the city of Surrey.
There's a lot of new development proposed on the hills just to the south of us, just behind us. And in order for that development to go ahead and not affect Highland Creek, Archibald Creek, it's a detention pond to manage the water. Developers are required to build the facilities before they can do their developments.
One issue with detention ponds is that regular maintenance is required for them to function. They must be dredged, and contaminated sediments need to be properly disposed.
If we ever need to clean the inlet, because that's where the sediments will come out, we have a platform we can do it from here. We design these things now not for like your 5-year storm, we design it for your frequent annual storms. The frequent storms are what causes the erosion, and that's really what you're doing a lot of this for.
Ponds should be designed for easy maintenance, such as this one in the Whalley neighborhood of Surrey.
We're in Surrey City Centre. Upstream of this location is 100% developed as far as parking lots and sort of low density commercial. The environmental review of the water coming out of Quibble Creek was that surprisingly it was in really good condition. There was really good quality of water. So what we're doing is just emphasizing that water quality. As time goes by and the water quality improves coming from upstream, we have very little maintenance at all. That bay in there is a sediment trap. So we can actually come in, excavate down to the lock blocks that are at the bottom without affecting too much of the habitat.
Wetlands are even more effective designs because they not only store and absorb large quantities of runoff, but they are effective purification systems. Carrie shows us a wetland that was constructed as part of a park retrofit project.
We're in a park that we did a revitalization project in about 4 years ago, where we integrated stormwater management into an older neighborhood, and then revitalized the park from taking an older park and making it more current and usable for residents in the neighborhood. We have a drainage utility in Surrey, so we have drainage money to build where we need drainage features. So we took the money from the drainage utility, and we were able, because we didn't have to buy land to put the stormwater management facility, use that money to revitalize the park. So it's like a double win for the city. Behind us is part of the stream and pond we built. What we've tried to do here is have a lot of bench marshlands. There's a big bench marshland over here on our left. Open waters, make sure it had pools, hiding places for fish, and lots of water quality treatment opportunities.
Wetland vegetation can take up excess nutrients and metals and lock away contaminants into unavailable forms. This phytoremediation process better protects fish and other organisms in downstream habitats. A proper design for wetlands includes a forebay that serves as a deposition area for sediments, which can be removed on a regular basis. This assures that clogging of wetlands is minimized, nutrient and dissolved metal uptake is maximized, and some degradation of hydrocarbons and pathogen reduction can take place within the wetland. Regular harvesting and replanting of new wetland vegetation is required to maintain efficiency. Wetlands can also be an attractive addition to residential neighborhoods, as in this example in the Chantrelle neighborhood of Surrey. Runoff from the street moves through this serpentine wetland system, and local residents maintain the gardens. Mosquito outbreaks are of particular concern for urban wetlands. Standing water habitats are ideal mosquito breeding grounds. To protect local populations from the nuisance and potential exposure to serious diseases such as the West Nile virus, certain design measures must be taken. We can decrease mosquito problems by minimizing stagnant water bodies by installing an aerator or fountain in the wetland, minimizing eutrophication and resulting algal blooms, as the algae provide food for and protect mosquito larvae, planting water lilies to cover the water surface, thus preventing larvae from connecting their breathing siphons to the air above. With proper permits, introducing predators that eat mosquito larvae and can survive semi-contaminated conditions, such as sticklebacks. And as a final resort, adding a biological control agent, such as a bacterial larvicide, to the wetland. Innovative stormwater management designs, or low-impact development at the neighborhood scale, can delay and reduce surface runoff dramatically. They can also reduce contaminants, which under traditional designs are conveyed directly into streams. These low-impact development examples are still not mainstream in many municipalities, as the initial capital costs are often higher than conventional stormwater systems.
So the more green infrastructure we can put in place now, we actually strongly believe we're going to save a lot of money in terms of future costs in dealing with some of these issues, erosion, flooding, and other kinds of things like that.
Urban streams are the ultimate recipients of all the excess runoff and contamination. To protect urban streams from the cumulative effects from property and neighborhood activities requires additional innovations at the watershed scale, which is the subject of our third and final video segment. Watersheds are the ultimate and final units for stormwater management. A watershed is an area of land that drains to one water body, such as a lake or the ocean. Everything is connected in a watershed, and what happens upstream impacts conditions downstream. When considering the watershed, we must deal with stormwater sources, transmission, and impacts. To assess the impact of land use activities on urban streams, we start by delineating the watershed boundary, identifying the stream location, and then determining the conditions of the riparian buffer zone. This process helps managers identify risks within the watershed, such as areas that could flood, shown here in yellow. When working at the watershed scale, elevation, slope, and other factors presented here should be considered. Building a Geographic Information System, or GIS, is an appropriate first step. Stream channels. The current practice is to direct urban runoff through stormwater pipes directly into streams. This creates a flashy stream flow regime, meaning higher peaks in stream flow over short amounts of time. This can result in bank erosion and increased sediment transport. Traditionally, this is mitigated by channelizing the river and straightening stream corridors. In some cases, armored banks are used, which are still prominent in many municipalities. We now know that these designs are detrimental to the aquatic biota and can lead to increased flooding problems in the lowland of the watershed. The recommended solution is to maintain a natural stream channel. This makes use of back channels, riffle, and pool systems to dissipate the energy of the water. This helps to reduce erosion caused by the stream. Large woody debris improves habitat for a wide range of aquatic organisms. Many channelized streams have been restored, but in some dense urban areas, the energy of runoff entering a stream can still cause bank erosion. Richard Bowes shows us one way to deal with this.
This is a treatment called riprap. Rain lands on an urban environment that's highly impervious. Very quickly the rain's concentrated and put into pipes and then injected into the stream. Lots of energy, and then the energy in that water usually manifests itself in erosion of the stream banks, right? So you can see the large pieces of angular rock that are put on the banks of the stream, and that's to stop this erosion that takes place with too much rain and such high energy.
A key component to maintaining a more natural stream channel is protecting the riparian buffer zone. Riparian buffer zones are vegetated areas next to water resources that provide protection from non-point source pollution. They also provide bank stabilization and aquatic and wildlife habitat. Well-vegetated riparian buffers can also moderate water temperature, take up nutrients, and provide a noise barrier. Urban streams with a riparian buffer zone and mixed substrate have higher biodiversity than streams next to urban development. Current riparian areas regulations in the lower mainland of BC require a 30-meter wide vegetated buffer zone on both sides of a stream corridor, containing only developments that will not result in harmful alteration of fish habitat. However, research has shown that aquatic ecosystem protection is enhanced with a 60 to 100 meter buffer strip. Competing land uses on a limited land area make these wider buffer zones difficult to implement in an urban environment. Using park space, like William Griffin Park around Mosquito Creek in North Vancouver, is one way to allow for wider buffers. Good riparian buffers can be thought of as a continuous three-zone concept that addresses surface water, soil water seepage, and groundwater inflow. Also consider that watershed boundaries do not typically take groundwater into account. Allowing runoff to be detained within the buffer zone, facilitating infiltration, and having a well-developed and vegetated buffer can greatly reduce the impact of stormwater runoff. Wetlands. Wetlands that are incorporated in a riparian buffer zone can improve stream water quality by retaining sediments and allowing wetland soils and plants to take up nutrients and metals and to reduce pathogens. Riparian wetlands can occur naturally or can be constructed to store and delay urban runoff. Flooding issues. To protect low-lying urban areas from flooding, dikes, concrete structures, and other flood-proofing measures such as pump systems are often used. Strict land use zoning can prevent certain developments from being built in the floodplain, reducing the damage from flooding. This is a challenge when there is development pressure on a limited land base. Given increased climatic variability and densification of urban landscapes, additional measures need to be considered. An innovative approach to flood protection is called design flood storage. This is where we designate topographic depressions within the watershed as a place for temporary water storage during very large storms. Areas with minimal building infrastructure, such as playgrounds, parks, golf courses, and agricultural areas, can effectively serve to temporarily store water that can be released after the peak storm has passed. Recently, designed flood storage has worked effectively in a number of storm events in the Mississippi River Basin in the U.S. and in the Red River Basin in Manitoba. It is recommended that these measures become a more integral part of urban stormwater management. When used together, innovations at all three scales can be effective in restoring the system to a more natural hydrologic regime, leading to improved water quality. This has worked in the city of Surrey.
In the Campbell Heights area, we have a treatment train for water quality. The industrial land has to have 50% of its frontage drains to bioswales of some sort. Their parking areas have to all go to oil grease interceptors at the property line. The city pipe system is actually a perforated pipe to try to get infiltration as much as we can. Before it enters the creek, it goes into a mechanical device, which is a storm scepter, to clean any sediments and everything off. After the storm scepter, it then goes into, we've made like stilling basins, so it's more of a little marsh at the outlet, and then a little channel before it hits the main channel. So we've got various levels of treatment we have, so it's more of a protection because we weren't too sure how the industrial component would be. We don't know what kind of industries are going to be coming in here, and we really want to protect the creek because this creek, as we said, we've restored it and we've got a salmon run in it. So we need as much as we can for water quality.
The innovations shown in this video, restoring stream channels, maintaining riparian buffer zones, and design flood storage, have the potential to significantly reduce flooding and environmental problems in urban watersheds.
More green infrastructure now, over time, is going to be less riprap, less cost to come in and do all of this engineering work, which, as you can see, is not necessarily as natural for the stream environment.
Challenges remain, both in incorporating these actions into new developments and in rehabilitating and retrofitting established urban watersheds. The stormwater management champions we have featured in our series are working to change this. Designs that mimic nature and infiltrate rainwater at the source are slowly becoming more mainstream in a number of municipalities. No single innovation is sufficient to reduce the flood risk. Not all combinations of options will work because of differences in climate, topography, geology, soils, hydrologic conditions, and spatial constraints. However, a combination of the most appropriate innovations is the best adaptation strategy to reduce flooding risks and improve the water quality in urban streams.